I have a bad habit of starting series and then just never finishing them. There's currently 15 series that I'm in the middle of that I actively want to finish. And out of those, these are the 12 where I already have the physical copy of the next book. And my goal for this video is to get through as many of these as I can. Starting off with the last book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, As Good as Dead. Okay, I am now halfway through with As Good as Dead. I feel like literally everyone has read this. It's one of those OG book talk books. But in case you are not familiar with the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, it's basically just a young adult murder mystery series. In each book, we are following Pip, our main character, who is investigating murders and other crimes that are happening in her small town. Each book obviously builds on what happens in the books before it, so I can't really tell you anything that happens in this one. But I can tell you that a lot is happening. I feel like the plot in this one has just been very much more fast-paced and intense. That we're already halfway through, but I'm like, this feels like we are nearing towards the end. And I heard from a bunch of people that this one is a lot darker than the first two books. And at first I was like, okay, I can kind of see it. And then at some point I was like, okay, yeah, this is taking a turn. This is definitely a bit darker. Obviously, I can't tell you why, but I can say that this one is a lot of people's favorite book in the whole series. So I'm hoping that this is my favorite as well. This isn't my absolute favorite series in the whole world. They're very enjoyable, very fast paced, but they're just not anything super special for me. I feel like the first two were just very predictable and also just very unrealistic, which I think just ties into the fact that it's young adult. I don't think that being young adult means that it has to be inherently just easier to guess the plot twist and what's going to happen, but I feel like that's definitely why they feel a bit more immature and just unrealistic. So I went into this one with a very open mind, expecting basically what I got in the first two books, not trying to take it too seriously, just trying to have a fun time. So far I am, and I'm just very excited to see what's going to happen. How are we going to wrap up this whole entire series? We have a lot of pages left, so I feel like she's going to throw in a lot more curveballs, and I don't really know what to expect. But I'm having a good time and I'm very excited to finish. What's happening? We have to talk because I just finished this book and I'm confused. I'm flabbergasted. I don't even really know what to say. I am not entirely sure what I just read. So the first half of this book, I was liking it. It was feeling just like the first two books. Like, not my favorite thing, but it was entertaining and it was interesting. It was very predictable. I feel like I guessed a lot of what happened in this book, but it was fine. And then if you've read this book, you know it takes a turn. And then from that point on, I just did not really enjoy it. I mean, it's not like I totally hated it because I still devoured the second half of this book, I feel like. I read at least like 200 pages today and I just could not put it down until I finished it. But oh my gosh, what was this? I feel like this is the most ridiculous book that I've ever read. Just like the craziest, most unbelievable, stupid stuff happening. I just don't even know what to say. I think I am in the minority of people who did not really enjoy this book, which to start off with, this has never been my favorite series. I did not love it as much as so many other people did, but I thought the first two books were fun and I enjoyed them. And this one is definitely my least favorite. But I've had so many people tell me that the third book is the best one, and that it's different because it's a little bit darker and the plot is very different if you've read this one. So many people were like, it's so good, just read the last one, you're gonna love it. So obviously my thoughts are not the majority. A lot of people loved this, so I don't want to sway people from not reading it. I would say that if you really love this series, then you're probably going to at least enjoy this one. It seems that a lot of people who do really like the series loved the ending, and I'm so happy for you. There is nothing worse than not enjoying the ending to a series that you like. So if you like this series and you like the way that it ended, then I'm very happy for you. I did not like the way that we ended things, but I can't really tell you why without giving things away. I guess I can just say that I've never really loved Pip as a main character. I like her, but I just feel like she makes a lot of really stupid decisions, and that's probably because it's a young adult book, so she's still like pretty immature. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I'm not really saying much of substance. So maybe later I'll be able to kind of cool down and give you some more like concrete thoughts, but for now I'm just like, what? And I feel like I just have to talk about it, so I'm gonna go into a spoiler section right now, and I'll put on the screen when the spoiler section ends so that you can skip if you don't want to watch. Okay, this entire plot is the most unrealistic thing I've ever read in my entire life. Like, I know I said earlier that the first two books were very unrealistic to me and very immature, and that I was going into this one with an open mind and being like, it's not gonna be realistic, whatever. Oh my god, nothing could have prepared me for this. So if you're watching the spoiler section but you haven't read it and you just want to know, basically Pip starts getting these very subtle threats, and she already doesn't trust the police, but she goes to them and says, hey, I think I have a stalker, and they're like, well, you don't really have any proof, we can't really do anything. Things start to escalate, and she starts investigating this serial killer who was already caught, and then she starts to realize that they have the wrong guy in prison, and she thinks the real serial killer is the guy who's sending her these threats. She's right, and she ends up getting kidnapped by the serial killer, brings her to his killing location, wraps her entire face face and her body in duct tape, leaves her for a few hours, and she ends up escaping. Then she's walking through the woods. She's trying to find somebody's house so she can call the police, and then she hears his car pull back up and she sees him, and then she's like, you know, the police have never really believed me before. I don't think they're gonna believe me that he's the killer and that he just kidnapped me and tried to kill me. So you know what? I'm just gonna go back and I will kill him. So she does. She pretty brutally kills him. And then she's like, well, I can't call the police. So she calls her boyfriend. He comes over and they concoct this huge scheme to tamper with his body and the evidence and somehow like set the clock 3 hours forward for his time of death so that they can come up with alibis for themselves. And then she roofies this guy and pins all this evidence against him to make it look like he killed him. And somehow these two 18-year-olds managed to do all of this in the most like unrealistic way. And what really bothered me was the entire time Pip is like, I don't want to involve anybody. She's getting all of these friends to create fake alibis for her, but she's like, I really don't want them involved, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I'm like, well, you called your boyfriend to the scene. You had him help you move a dead body and do all of this stuff. So you completely incriminated him. He helped you cover up a dead body, and all of your friends willingly tampered with an investigation by giving you a fake alibi. But she's so worried about it, and she's got this whole like savior complex. She's like, I can't. I have to be the one that goes down for it. And the second that the police think that it could be her, she's like, I have to confess. I have to confess because I don't want anybody else to go down for it. Like, she went through this whole thing, involved all these people, came up with this huge scheme, and for the most part it was pretty successful. And the second that they have any sort of shred of evidence that it could have been her, she's like, I have to confess. She doesn't end up confessing. They end up arresting the guy that she pinned it on, but she knows that the detective has a feeling it was really her all along. So she decides for over a year. How long is it? 694 days. So for almost 2 years, she decides that she has to cut off all communication with her boyfriend, her family, all of her friends until the murder investigation is finished and they find the man guilty. Because she's like, well, if they find him not guilty, then they're gonna come after me. So I can't talk to any of y'all until I know it's safe because I'm bad. I don't know what her train of thought was. Like, why do you have to cut off all communication with these people? You've all already done what you've done. And you're not doing anything bad in the meantime. Like, she's going off to college. I'm like, why can't you talk to any of them? It doesn't make any sense. And why cut off your family? Your family had nothing to do with it. I don't understand at all. Like, why did she make every decision was the wrong decision? After she escaped, she killed him because she thought they wouldn't believe her. You had evidence that he was the murderer, and the police ended up finding out later anyways. Then after she kills him, she's not like, hey, this guy abducted me, did all this, and I killed him out of self-defense. No, she does this whole thing, then involves literally all of her friends, but then acts like she is trying to keep them all safe. And I'm like, you've already involved them all. Now they all know that you murdered this man. I feel like I could talk about this for a really long time. Like, why was it so wild? Why couldn't it have been more of a believable plot? And also, it's not just Pip that I'm upset with. Ravi just kind of goes along with all of this. The only moment I was okay with was when she was going to confess to the crime and she had literally no reason to, and he went to the police and he like smoothed things over a little bit and he stopped her from doing that. I was like, yeah, don't let her just confess when you guys went through all of that. But at the end, when she's like, we can't talk to each other, we have to cut it off completely, you can wait around for me, you cannot. The fact that he was just like, okay, you're right, that's for the best, I won't talk to you anymore. I'm like, what? What kind of boyfriend is he? And how is he not gonna be like, that's literally so stupid, Pip, what is the reason? And then it just ends almost 2 years after she hasn't talked to anybody. They obviously convict the guy of murder. So she's like, okay, I'm in the clear now. And she just texts him and says, hey, you remember me? And it's just his like ... that he's typing back. That's the ending we get? I don't know what I was expecting from the end of this series, but it certainly was not any of what I just told you. The whole thing obviously kind of frustrates me, but at the same time, like, I want to make it clear that I was eating it up. And I enjoyed the first half of it, and it's not like I was totally hate reading the second half, but it was just the entire time I was reading that second half, everything just made me go like, what? Like, even more? Like, this is so unbelievable. And it made me dislike the characters more and more as we went on. And that's just obviously not what I wanted. Like, this is not how I wanted to finish the series. I obviously was hoping for more of a happy ending. I didn't want to progressively hate the characters more and more at the end of the book. So, yeah. I feel like maybe I'll be ruffling a couple of feathers with this one or upsetting some people because a lot of people really loved this and a lot of people recommended it to me saying, hey, I know you didn't really love the first two, but just keep going, the third one's good. And when something like that happens, I honestly just feel bad that you guys are recommending something to me and then I have to come on camera and talk about how I didn't like it because nobody likes to hear somebody talking badly about a book that they like. So I just feel bad, but also this book, obviously, I feel so strongly about it that I had to come on here and talk about it. I will say that after all that hating and negative talk that I just did. I am actually really excited to start the show. I think it's on Netflix. They just came out with the first season, which is probably going to cover all of book 1. And I haven't heard too much about it, but I have heard that it's pretty good. And I'm really interested to see just like how they do it. I feel like it has potential to be a really good TV show. And even this last book, I feel like if they just tweaked a couple of things, it could also be really interesting to watch on television. I feel like when I'm watching stuff on TV, it's a little bit easier to suspend my disbelief, and it's just more like entertainment value. So even though I ranted about this for like 20 whole minutes, I am about to hop in bed and start the show, and hopefully I like it. They're British? Since when are they British? Okay, I am 1 book and 1 series down, and since finishing As Good as Dead, I'm looking for something that's just a little bit more lighthearted, fun, quick and easy, and so I think I'm leaning towards one of these 2, which are my 2 graphic novels. Spy Family, which I'm on volume 6, and then Heartstopper, which I am on to volume 2. I think right now there's at least like 5 Heartstoppers, and there's at least like 12 Spy Families, so I'm nowhere near finishing these, but I'm just taking my time with these ones because I'm really enjoying them. Okay, I am looking absolutely wild. I'm trying that trick where you use a clip to hold up your front pieces of hair to try and give it some more volume because my hair is the most lifeless thing no matter what I do. And I'm probably doing this wrong, but that's what I'm trying right now, so that's what's going on top of my head. But I am almost done with Daisy Hates, and I just realized that I have done a horrible job of updating you, and that's because I've been in a slump. I've been in a slump for like a solid 2 weeks, so that hasn't been very fun, and I have not really been wanting to pick up the camera because I, 1, haven't been reading, and I just felt like I didn't really have anything to talk about. I feel like I'm almost out of the slump, and I have just a little bit left of the book, so I wanted to talk to you for at least a couple minutes before I finish the book. I don't even think that I properly introduced this or like said, hey, I'm reading this book now. I have filmed absolutely nothing since the day that I started reading it. So first off, if you don't know what this is, it's the 2nd book in the Magnolia Parks / Daisy Hates universe. I've always just heard this series described as British Gossip Girl. It's just really wealthy young people, and there's not a whole lot of actual plot. It's more so just following their day-to-day lives and their relationships, which are very toxic. These books are in the romance section, and I feel like I don't know what else I would categorize them as, but they're definitely not your typical romance. These are not books where you're gonna read them and be like, I wish I had a love like that. I mean, maybe you will on some level, but the way that everyone in these books treats each other is just not very great. But I actually really love all the characters, and I feel like they all have such redeeming qualities. It's just so interesting to read, and I get very sucked into the whole drama and everything that's happening. It's almost like watching a reality TV show. You might not like everybody, you might hate what they're doing, but you're just enjoying watching it. It's very entertaining. So Magnolia Parks follows Magnolia and BJ, and this one follows Daisy Hates and Christian. In Magnolia Parks, I loved the writing. I was like, this feels exactly like how I think in my brain, especially when we were in the Magnolia point of view. I just feel like the way that she wrote, she was doing the whole casual stream of consciousness in the character's head thing very well. It very much connected with me. And something that I was a little bit thrown off by, but that I'm actually really enjoying, is that I feel like she made a really big effort to make sure that everybody's voice sounds differently. So for Magnolia, it was very much what I just described. It felt like exactly inside of my head. But with Daisy, we still have that, but the style in which we get it is a little bit different. She's a med student and she's very smart, and instead of just the stream of consciousness that I feel like we get with Magnolia Parks, we actually get footnotes when we're in Daisy's point of view, and I don't know if it's supposed to be like her looking back at things. I kind of just read it as her in the moment adding little addendums to what she's actually saying. It's not at all like a typical footnote. Normally when I see footnotes, I'm usually kind of bored and I don't really enjoy them. This is different because I feel like the footnotes are in the same style as the rest of the writing, so it's not like scientific or boring. It's just exactly how Daisy thinks. I feel like the writing for the men's point of views is not as different as it is between Magnolia and Daisy, but the girls are the star of the show, so I don't really care. Anyways, what I can tell you about this book that doesn't spoil anything for the first one is that we follow mostly a different set of characters, and we very loosely see the major plot points that happened in Magnolia Parks' book in this one, so I guess it's happening in a parallel time zone. Hence why I feel like the books are split into 2 different series, because it really only focuses on them and does not see much of Magnolia and BJ at all. Daisy's brother Julian is a gang lord. They basically are art thieves. They have a reputation. Pretty much everybody knows that they're gang lords, but like I guess the police just don't have enough evidence to actually do anything, so they just just live freely as these gangsters. So the vibes are very different from Magnolia Parks. There's actually a little bit of high stakes in here. There's just a little bit more going on plot-wise in this one, I feel like. So if you didn't like how Magnolia Parks didn't have a whole lot of actual plot, maybe you'll like this one a little bit more because we have the whole gang stuff to follow. Daisy has a very interesting past that we get to hear about throughout the book, and there's just more going on. Because I was in a slump and I've been reading this for well over 2 weeks, I don't really know how to feel about it. I have about 40 pages left, and I did read like 200 pages in the last 2 days, so I'm definitely back on track. I'm back into it. I'm really enjoying reading it, but I just don't currently feel the same way that I did about Magnolia Parks, where that one was a 5-star. I was so obsessed. I feel like because I've been in a slump and I just honestly was really busy, I didn't have a whole lot of time to read, which I think is what put me in the slump. Because of that, I'm not as obsessed with it as I feel like I was with the first one, but I can't pinpoint a single thing that I like about this one less than I did about Magnolia Parks. Okay, my stomach has been grumbling so loud, so I'm gonna go make dinner and finish the last 40 pages, and I will be back to give you my final thoughts and start my next book. Is that the end? What's this? Okay, obviously I finished Daisy Hates, and let me tell you what I'm thinking. I know for a fact that because I was in the slump, it's just negatively affecting how I feel about this book, and it makes it so hard to actually rate it. Right off the bat, I feel like I did not like it as much as I did Magnolia Parks, and again, it's kind of like I didn't have a normal experience reading it because it took me like almost 3 weeks at this point, which for me is not normal, and the longer I take to finish a book, the less I'm gonna enjoy it. That's just how it is. So I feel like this situation that happened just is putting this book at a disadvantage, but I will say that I enjoyed it. I really had a great time. I think I love this series and I'm excited to continue it soon, but I just don't really know what to rate it right now. I'm kind of feeling like around a 4-star, which is crazy because a lot of people told me that they loved this one more than the first book, and so I was expecting to love this one just as much, if not more, and I might be rating it a whole star lower. But I'll give myself a little bit more time to actually think on it. I'll sleep on it and I'll get back to you later. But now I'm feeling kind of conflicted because I've been filming this video for like 3 weeks at this point, and I really wanted to read Court of Wings and Ruin in this video, but I just don't think that I can physically do it. This book is probably 700 pages. Yep, it's 700 pages, and I just don't know how long this is going to take me. And I also don't know that jumping into a book this big is really going to be great when I'm trying to come off of this slump. But I really wanted to feel like I made significant progress in another series. So my plan was to get to this one, but I think I'm going to have to put it on hold and do this one later. I have a feeling that this one is going to make it into another reading vlog somewhat soon. So I've read 3 books so far, and I want to finish with the 4th, which is Heartstopper Volume 2. This should be a really quick, fun read. I definitely should finish this tonight, unless I get really tired or something. If you don't know, Heartstopper is a graphic novel, and it's about Nick and Charlie who are in high school. I read the first one a couple months ago, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of the sweetest, just most like heartwarming things I've ever read, and immediately after finishing it, I couldn't wait to get into the next one. It just took me a while to physically pick up the next copy, so I'm very excited to dive right in. I love the art style of this, and it just okay, I'm spoiling things for myself, but it just is gonna make me feel so like happy and sweet inside. So I'm gonna read this tonight, and then I think I'm gonna call it quits on this video, and I'll update you tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day. I've had some time to think about things, and I'm here to wrap up the 4 books that I talked about. Side note, my washing machine is going on in the background, and it was super loud earlier, but it's a little bit quieter, so I'm hoping that you can't hear it, but I'm sure I'll regret this choice later. Anyways, as you saw in this video, I went through these 4 books. I was planning on reading more, but you know what? I wasn't planning on being in a book slump, so it is what it is. Things happen, and this is all I really got to because this has already taken me probably 3 weeks to film. So I'll go over things really quick and just talk about where I'm standing now with all my series. Obviously, the first book I read was As Good as Dead, which means that I officially finished the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. It has taken me well over a year, probably close to 2 years to finish this, so I just feel very happy that I finally crossed this off my list. As you saw, I was not exactly thrilled with this book. I definitely enjoyed the first half a lot more than the second half. I just personally did not enjoy the path that we went down with our main character, Pip. I felt like it was very out of character, and it just didn't make sense to me. It was very unrealistic, and I just really did not like the second half. And I have settled on a final rating of 2.5 stars, which is not horrible, but it's definitely not great. It's not the ending that I wanted to happen, but it's not like this is my favorite series or anything. I think I gave the first 2 books 3 stars. So for me, they were kind of average. They were very entertaining, but nothing special. So, I mean, I'm disappointed, but I can't really complain much because it's not like I had the highest hopes going into it, I guess. But like I said, I am so glad to finally be done with this, and it felt really good to complete this series and to start this video off with a good one. Not good as in the book was good, but good as in I finished a series. Then I flew through volume 6 of Spy Family, and I didn't really have much to say about this because it's a manga, it's very short. I feel like I never really have much to say about it other than I love this series. I feel like it's just very fun. It's stupid, it's silly, and it makes me laugh, but this one I feel like has been my least favorite out of the series so far. I have heard a lot of people complain that the series ends up going downhill, and I'm hoping that from this point onwards, it's not like I'm continually disappointed. I hope that this one was just a little bit of a fluke. I just didn't find this one to be as funny or entertaining as the other ones, but overall I still really enjoyed it and I love this series and I will continue it. Then I read this one, Miss Daisy Hates, which is the book that took me over 2 weeks to read. I definitely wouldn't say that this caused my reading slump. I would say that my circumstances caused my reading slump and she was just a casualty in that. So I do feel kind of bad because I don't know really how I stand with this. If you've been in a slump before, then you know that what you're reading during that slump usually is not going to be rated super highly, or you probably don't enjoy it very much because you're just not really in the best reading mood. So I feel like I can't really objectively tell you if I liked this one or Magnolia Parks better. Obviously I had a better time reading Magnolia Parks. I read it a lot quicker. I absolutely devoured it and I loved it and couldn't wait to get to the next one. Whereas this one took me forever, but I will say that I did devour the second half. I think I read the last like 300 pages in 2 or 3 days, which for me is pretty quick. I don't typically read books that quickly. So I was very invested. I was really into it, but overall, I think I'm sitting at a 4-star just for my enjoyment level. It's just really hard to rate it because I'm definitely not going to give it a 5 stars. It doesn't feel like it's anything more than a 4-star, but I feel like if I read this at a better time, then maybe it would be a 5-star. Maybe I would love this even more than Magnolia Parks. We'll just never know. So yeah, I feel kind of bad that this was the casualty of my book slump. This is a book I was really excited for, so if I could pick any book in my whole library, this is not the one that I would pick to be read during the throes of a slump. But it is what it is. As of right now, she's sitting at a solid 4 stars. Really enjoyed it once I got back into my regular pace of reading, and I definitely want to continue the series and hopefully finish it sometime soon. And last was volume 2 of Heartstopper, which was another one that I was really looking forward to. As soon as I finished volume 1, I was like, that was the cutest thing I've ever read in my whole life. I need volume 2 right now, give it to me. And I don't know if it's because I waited a while or maybe it was just like the plot and what was happening in this one, but I didn't love this one as much as the first one. I found it to be a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but you know, it's a short graphic novel. There's not a whole lot that you can cram into this, but I kind of felt like we had a little bit more plot-wise, or maybe it was just the build-up that was kind of fun in the first book in comparison to this one where I almost got bored. But that feels really harsh because I wasn't actually bored and I was really enjoying it, and I am excited to pick up book 3. I just could definitely tell that I enjoyed volume 1 a little bit more than this one. I think that last night on Goodreads I rated it 4 stars, which is what I gave the first one, because it's a graphic novel and I feel like I didn't enjoy it that significantly less than the first one. It's not worth it to me to give it like a 3.5 or something. I feel like it's still worthy of a 4. I feel kind of bad. I feel like I was negative about those last 3. I mean, I wasn't really negative. It's just that I enjoyed the other books in the series better than those. Actually, what am I talking about? All 4 of them. Oh, this video is great. Apparently, I didn't enjoy a single one of these better than I did the other books in the series. That's a bit disappointing and I feel really negative now. But oh well, it is what it is. How many times can I say that? I just updated my series tracker in Notion, and after finishing As Good as Dead, it says that I'm currently in the middle of 15 series. Why do I feel like that was the same number that I started at? And I have also gotten one step closer in 3 different series to completing them. So maybe not as great or like concrete accomplishments as I wanted to have in this video, but at the end of the day, I read 4 books. Maybe 2 of them were graphic novels, but oh well. That is still 4 books closer to finishing all the series that I'm in the middle of, so a win is a win. It's safe to say that I have lots of reading left to do, so lots of possible content to continue this video series. So out of all the books that you saw I'm in the middle of, if there's any that you want me to read in a video, let me know. But I have been yapping for long enough, so it's time to finally just close out this video. If you're still here, then thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed. I really like doing these types of videos, so I hope that y'all still enjoy them, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye!